Yeah, get it on. Got to get on. No choice to get on. Mandate you get it on. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling a friend. Chris McPass going to be hanging out. We'll do the news and a couple of few, and then we'll talk to our guest.
I'm excited for Ben McKenzie. He's like the closest thing we have to a crypto denier, like a public crypto denier.
Yeah, crypto denier. Crypto. I really have no idea the state of crypto, but it seems like it's not going the direction people thought it was going to go. But on the other hand, we'll talk to him and figure out where it's going, because I just can't. It's like NFTs. I can't wrap my mind around many things that exist in our society today.
You've never invested in either, have you?
No, but that doesn't mean it's not a good thing. It just means I've never done that. I'm very tactile. I'm also, the thing about, like, when you have money, the difference between having money and not having money is it becomes it becomes very digital and whatever. And you can also talk to your accountant and go, how much money do I have in the bank? And they'll go, nothing. And then you go, I thought I had $1 million in the bank. And they go, yeah, but we had to pay last year's taxes with that. And you go, oh. So I thought I had $1 million. Well, you did.
Yeah.
But we had to give it to the government.
It's never really yours.
So it's not really. Now you don't have anything.
It's gone.
And then they go, and you're going to owe $750 in March. So we got to get moving on that. Oh, listen, when you pay taxes, like I pay taxes, first off, you fucking sanctimonious pricks out there are like, why can't there? If you guys paid what I paid and got what I got, you'd be walking around. All you do, you'd have to have a person walk next to you to hand you pencils for you just to break them. You just couldn't. You couldn't imagine. You couldn't imagine where you literally. I owed the government $2 million. I just sold a warehouse, and they go, well, what's left after paying this and that and everything else? Like, you have $2 million. Oh, where is it? Well, you gave it to the government. Like, that's how it is.
And I could see that, and you can build resentment towards the government just based off that.
Well, no, then what happens is you go, why didn't they pick up my trash cans? And the neighbor goes, you had them facing the wrong direction. You got to put the hook on the outside. You had the hook turn, and you go, $2 million. $2 million. I can't get my fucking cans picked up? Well, you didn't have the... And then you have some fucking friend, like, you have my mom or my mom's friend or whatever it is, and they go, well, why do you think that you deserve special treatment? Hey, bitch. You paid $8,000 over the course of your adult lifetime. I paid what you paid in one fucking day. But by the way, try that shit in a casino. You go in there and play nickel slots with your broke-ass friends, and then have a Japanese whale fly in on a private jet and play $20,000 hands of pinochle in the Velvet Room, and then you get to go, why should you get a free drink? Yeah. Shut the fuck up. Don't you guys listen, the government's the only place that doesn't work this way. Everywhere else, if you go in and drop millions of dollars at their establishment, it's like, right this way, Mr. Carolla, we've saved a booth for you. Or you pay what a school teacher pays, which is almost nothing, but you don't fucking get the same booth that the rich guy does at the casino, and you don't get to say shit because everyone will go, you play the Keno cards and play the nickel slots.
Right.
That's why you don't get what this person gets. And by the way, then someone will stop you and go, you see the reason the buffet is $14 and you get to eat $36 worth of food is because the guy who's playing the $20,000 hands of pinochle subsidizes the buffet. So you get this shit at half price. But somehow all we have is, why can't the rich pay their fair share?
Yeah.
Somehow that's where we arrived. And it's everyone's fault but mine. Because I've said, look, the reason we're here is because fucking people that do pay need to start saying something. And also, don't call it your fair share. It's not your fair share. It's the most misleading term ever, which is all they do.
But it rhymes.
All they do is they go, no nukes or meat is murder. You're denying women access, Hobby Lobby's denying women reproductive access or whatever. It's all just bullshit. It's all just wording. Your fair share is the share that you owe to live in this society. Unless you get something beyond what everyone else gets.
Yeah.
It's how many people live in this place? How do we break it down? Look, if you have a roommate situation and there's 10 of you living under one roof and you all have the same size room and the same access to the same food and the same privileges to the same TV set and everything's just the same, then there's a share. And the share would have to be 1/10 for every individual, completely equal. That would be your fair share. Now, if you had one roommate who had the master suite and the bathroom attached and got jacuzzi privileges over anybody else, secret entrance, then you'd say, okay, well, then that person should pay somewhat more.
Makes sense.
And percentage-wise more. But if everyone's just getting the same thing, then the fair share is broken down 10 ways. This is a house that we as Americans rent where 4 of the people living in the house don't pay anything.
Yeah.
And then 3 of the people, then the next 4 pay a little less than they should. And then there's 2 roommates who pay for almost everything. And the people who pay nothing and who pay less than they should are angry at the 2 roommates. And the politicians go, see, we got those 2 roommates over there. They're super successful. They're paying for everything. Yeah. How many votes do they get, like in the next election? They each get 1.
Same, yeah.
Just 1? Each 1. Yeah. So that's 2 votes? Uh-huh. And then how about the 8 losers who are fucking never stop belly aching about what they're not getting? How many votes do they get?
They each get 1 as well.
Oh, so that's 8? Yeah. Okay, I got my speech then. Okay, I'm going to go pander to the fucking 8 losers now and point at the 2 roommates and demand that they pay their fair share. And then I'll get more votes from the fucking losers. All right, so that's where we're at. I've never signed off on it. I've always said,
I know.
Always spoken out against it. It's mostly
As
just
a poor
kind of
person. I don't like hearing
mostly
it,
like rich guy guilt. Like, don't say anything. Don't say anything, just put the flip flops and the board shorts on it. Don't say anything.
There is a rich guy guilt. Yeah, that's why
I don't have an ounce of it. But I have a unique luxury of never getting anything from anybody ever, including the federal government. So I get to speak with impunity. Yeah. The folks that like went to Harvard and stuff, and their dad was a lawyer and stuff, they feel a little guilty.
Yeah,
they feel like, well, I did kind of I was a legacy over at Yale, and I did have a hand up, and if I was born in the inner city, I probably wouldn't have made it here. Right. Like they have all that. Yeah, I have total impunity. Grew up in squalor, and was and never a helping hand from anybody ever. So then I'm free.
Right,
I'm free to speak my mind. Now, speaking of fair share and verbiage, I tell you people all the time, focus on the language. Focus on how, being pro-abortion turns into pro-healthcare, or being anti-abortion turns into denying women's right for reproductive freedoms. Yeah. And then that gives way to just healthcare overall. Like, your 13-year-old girl wants to get her tonsils removed. Well, hold on. That Republican congressman says no.
Right.
He wants you to okay it with him first. Okay, so that's what they do, because the verbiage is powerful, words are powerful, and we massage. Things need to be massaged to work when you're trying to get votes and you're trying to make a case. And I've started, for those of you who think this is some Trumponian thing, I was on Loveline in 1996 going, victim of rape, survivor of rape. I'm like, what do we need survivor of rape for? We have victim of rape. I don't have survivor. I go, fuck that. It's victim of rape. I'm sticking with it. Blind, seeing impaired. Like, I felt this shit's been working for 25 years. And I've always been, what are we doing? What are you trying to do? Why are you trying to do it? And now it is just blown up into, you know, whatever.
Homeless, unhoused.
Yes. I mean, yeah. Illegal aliens used to be that. There were aliens from another country who are here illegally. They weren't misplaced migrants or folks who wade in the Rio Grande or whatever the fucking euphemistic. Now, why do you put a title to this thing? Because if you go, this house has termites, you go, get the fucking tent and the Orkin guy. We're going to kill those termites. But if you go, this house has love mites. You go, oh, well, you can't kill them.
Yeah, we could do something more humane.
We'll change your name to Love Friends. And now we're not going to do anything to it. So if you, it's all in the title. And so here's the latest, and here's the one I was thinking about today.
Okay.
Now, the dirty little secret of all the anti-gun people, and I'll preface this by saying, I'm not anti-gun, I'm not pro-gun, I'm not anti-COVID or pro-COVID. I just want the data.
Yeah.
Give me the data.
You're anti-insanity.
Right. And then I will make an informed decision. But the anti-gun people, they're always talking about how many gun deaths there are every year, right?
Of course.
Now, I've told you, it used to be called, they'd go, this is how many homicides there were, or this is how many murders there were. Now they're like gun-related incidents. So they're taking it out of the hands of the person that's squeezing the trigger and blaming the gun.
Right, gun violence.
So they go gun violence, gun violence. It was never gun violence. It was murder. Murder. Lee Harvey Oswald didn't cause gun violence on JFK. He murdered him. He shot him. That wasn't gun violence. It wasn't a rando hunting rifle sitting on top of the book depository. A guy took the rifle up there and killed him. That's what we used to understand. But now it's gun violence because they want to get rid of the guns, and they'd like to go easy on the kids with the guns, too. So this will serve two masters. So I said, another thing they don't tell you when they do the gun stats is over half the gun-related deaths are suicides. They count those as gun-related deaths.
Over half the gun-related deaths are suicides.
So when they go, CDC says there's 55,000 gun deaths, more than half of those are people killing themselves with their own
You don't hear
gun.
that. You just hear this many deaths by gun violence.
You never hear it.
Right.
Why not? What are the things we never hear? We never heard any stats on young, healthy people being killed by COVID. That's how they roll. Everything's
to push an agenda.
Right. So I was listening to the talk radio on the way in. I was listening to Dennis Prager, and he kind of stumbled on this article, and it was an article about a school principal, and it was out of Canada, and the article said that he died by suicide. And then I thought, wait a minute, died by suicide? Because we used to say committed suicide. That's all we said. It was the most accurate statement you could say. They committed suicide. It is now...
Because it's committed suicide, you're an actor.
It's volitional. You've done it to yourself.
Died by suicide, you're a victim.
Right. So what do they got to do? Well, what they have to do is they have this inconvenient truth, which is more than half of the suicides with guns are more than half of the homicides, or the deaths, I should say, with guns are self-inflicted gun wounds with suicide, right? So now we got to figure out a way to walk that back. We have to kind of soft pedal it a little. And if we say died by suicide, then it sort of seems like maybe it's the gun's fault versus committed suicide.
Because we have to blame somebody.
You actually committed this act volitionally to yourself with this gun. So pay attention to the word massaging that goes on. And there's always a purpose for it. It's always there for a reason. And it'll seem innocuous at the beginning. It'll seem like, and it flies by people. Like they don't even know, like denying women health care. You know what I mean? Like no one ever stops to go, I said I'm not buying you a vaginal IUD. Is it IUD?
Yeah.
Interuterine device. Yeah. But that's not denying you health care. We let it go. Politicians, pundits, and the people in the news just grab it and they fucking run with it. And the next thing you know, they've completely taken this narrative and they've hijacked it. So pay attention when things change that don't need to change. Committed suicide was perfect. It worked for Grandpa. It worked for his father. It'll work for us. And it'll work for our kids.
Any headlines in the recent years, maybe like the last 5 or 6 years, maybe even longer, that where I don't think I see committed suicide as a term.
They get all on the same page, and it's now died of suicide. All right, we got some news to get into.
Yeah.
Why don't we do that? All right, we'll take a break. Come back and do some news right after this. Let me talk to you about something that is serious for a minute. I'm sitting here holding some coins that were sent to me by our new partner, Lear Capital. Having precious metals on hand or in your hand provide financial protection as part of a portfolio, but it can also drive a handsome return. If you invested in gold in 2000, you'd be looking at a near 400% return. Yes, 400%. I'm not saying sell everything and buy gold, but I am saying you should connect with Lear Capital and at the very least, get a free investment guide. Everyone worries about wealth protection, and I see precious metals as an easy way to feel protected. Do me a favor. Go to learadam.com and ask for a free investment guide. Educate yourself and learn more about diversifying or even beginning a portfolio plan. If you go to learadam.com today and buy 1 ounce of gold, my listeners will receive 1 ounce of free silver. It's a BOGO. Buy one, get one. Check out learadam.com. That's learadam.com. Let me tell you about Angie homeowners. You know, it's a lot of work to own a home. Whether it's everyday maintenance, repairs, or dream projects, it can be hard to even know where to start. All you need is Angie, your home for everything home. Find a skilled local pro who will deliver quality and experience. Over 20 years of home service experience. Bring them your project online or with the Angie app. Answer a few questions and Angie handles the rest. Look, you're busy. You don't have time to do all this stuff. Let Angie handle it. Take care of just about any home project in just a few taps. Download the free Angie mobile app today or visit online. Visit Angie.com. That's ANGI.com. ANGI.com. That's Angie. Let them do all the heavy lifting. All right, what do we got in the news?
Well, as we record this is breaking. Sinead O'Connor, Irish singer, saying nothing compares to you, has just died at the age of 56. No cause of death was given. The family said in a statement, it is with great sadness that we announce the passing of our beloved Sinead. Her family and friends are devastated and have requested privacy at this very difficult time.
No cause given, but she was always kind of on the brink of suicide, did it seem like?
Yeah, I think so.
So is no cause given code for that? And if someone is perpetually depressed, don't you? And it turns out they died in an avalanche. You need to say avalanche, because if you're depressed all the time and there's no cause given,
assume that. Yeah,
we do the math. Now the code, I think the code, because I went and looked up a girl I used to date once, and I think she committed suicide, probably mostly because of me. But I just, they didn't say how she died. They just said she's no longer in pain. Like she's that. I sort of took that as code for killed themselves. No, committed suicide.
Right.
Anyway, weird,
and
sad, torture.
In January of last year, her son Shane committed suicide at the age of 17.
So you know, all the people I wish would commit suicide never commit suicide, and then the ones I like commit suicide.
Yeah.
I wish it worked out.
Yeah.
And I wish bad people committed suicide, not depressed people. Wouldn't it be awesome?
Yeah. I mean, you always say, especially like all the mass shooters out there, just do it.
I was talking about some of the cast members of The View, but I get where you're at.
That's right.
I know where you're at.
Yeah. You get it both ways. Well, all right. So also, as we record this, there's a new video of Mitch McConnell that just came out. So he's doing a press conference, and he kind of freezes up. We have the video here, and we'll show it to you.
Cooperation and a string of
Yep. Stops talking. He's staring.
If he's a jukebox, you got to kick it.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say, or should we just go back to your office?
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything
John
else to the press?
Barrasso, Wyoming.
Go back to
And now they're kind of escorting him off away from the podium there.
So he's having more than a senior moment there.
Yeah, so it's raising concerns
How old
about
is
his health.
he?
He is 81. So this raising concerns about his health after suffering a concussion earlier this year.
Uh-huh.
But, I mean, are these people just too old to be...
I mean, I
know you talk about ageism a lot and how we should appreciate people being wise, but then comes Mitch McConnell, Feinstein. Like, where do we draw the line here?
Where we draw the line is the Tom Brady rule.
Okay.
There should not be a rule that you can't play in the NFL after the age of 35 and a half.
Agreed.
But most don't. And once you turn 40, you're in rarefied air with maybe George Blanda, guys like that. It's like you literally, there's nobody.
Right.
You know, I would reckon off the top of my head that players in the NFL over the age of 30, 35, probably 7%. Over the age of 37, 5%. And over the age of 40, 0%. Like that's how fast it happens, right? That's what the drop-off is. I don't really like making a steadfast rule number for age in politics or any job because
it's different for everybody.
Yeah, like if
William Shatner sits here at age 93.
Yes,
yeah,
much more lucid. So you get in this fucking game where you go, Joe Biden is too old. No, Joe Biden has early onset dementia. Or maybe it's not early onset. It's just dementia. My buddy Philip the Juggler died of early onset dementia when he was 52.
Right.
But you wouldn't go, 52, he's not old enough to juggle or he's too old to juggle. No, he had a horrible disease and it shows up at different times for different people. I hate Joe Biden and I also hate Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is older than Joe Biden and sharp as a fucking tack.
Yeah.
Now, he hates America and nothing he says makes sense. And let's pray that old fuck never gets elected to anything because we'll all be destroyed. But he can rat-a-tat-tat out as fast. He can go on Bill Maher's show and boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
So is it about age? No, it's not about age. It's about ability. And if Joe Biden was losing it at 63, I'd say he has to go. Or if he was Bernie Sanders, he wouldn't. So you go, well, Trump's old. Yeah, but Trump doesn't slow down. Trump doesn't search for words. So it's a cognitive thing. And I would argue that if there was ever a job where people should be tested, it's the president of the United States, it's the senators, it's anyone, Speaker of the House. Like if you're operating at a high level and you're in charge of policy, just like an airplane pilot, you should be tested once a year.
Yeah.
Now, Joe Biden won't be tested, but then the answer is, why won't Joe Biden be tested? And then why wouldn't he just put all these rumors to bed by being tested? Because we know how that would end.
Yeah, like Drew has to take some board or certification tests every few years to stay a doctor.
Right. So I'm not really picking a random number because the random number would exclude people that were perfectly sharp past that date.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want William Shatner in 2010 to say, William Shatner, you're not up to acting anymore.
Sorry.
You
Too
can't.
old.
You cannot be
No
the
way you can memorize
spokesperson
his
for this
lines.
travel company. You're just gonna have to go home and rot because that wouldn't be fair to William Shatner. But it might be fair to others who weren't up to it. So just have a cognitive test, have them pass it or not.
Yeah.
And then we'll move forward from there.
Need some congressman combine.
Yes, because everyone is way too fucking old and way too. I mean, we have Dianne Feinstein. People have never even seen her. Was it Dianne Feinstein?
Yeah, she's almost like a puppet now, right? Just they'll wheel her out every once in a while. They'll say, "Oh, she says she wants to enact on this law. She proves this bill."
She's a high-ranking California politician, and she's let's see. Not ambulatory, as I'd say. She cannot move around like on her own. I mean, get rid of these fucking people. What? I have no idea what's going on in California. And then Gavin Newsom is fucked because he's like, we're going to replace her with a woman of color, which always turns out spectacularly for the constituency. It's always great when you get a woman of color in there because they could do no wrong, and they're the smartest people in the world.
You're a straight white guy. This is not looking good for you.
It's so awesome. All right. Anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's head over to Florida. So there's some new reports of Florida water temperatures hitting 100 degrees.
I could not believe this story.
Yeah, so a buoy in Florida registered a jaw-dropping 101.1 degrees Fahrenheit water temperature on the heels of the same buoy in Manatee Bay registering 100.2 degrees. Now, we don't know the records because they haven't really been keeping records of this, if this is but I mean, they do assume this is the highest. And yeah, a hot tub is 100 to 102 degrees, so you're stepping in the jacuzzi.
I know, and we're all worried about global warming because it's so hot, and that's how we are because we're superstitious gypsies. And when you hear like, oh, this is the hottest whatever on record, go back and look at a bunch of data. You'll see it's mostly just whatever. Look, here's what I'm saying about the global warming people. These are the people who brought you COVID and who brought you Hunter Biden's laptop. So when they say something, just think about it a little bit.
Yeah, not
just
a good track record
I
now.
wonder how accurate this statement is. That's all. Just think about the exact same people were tuning you up on COVID for 2 years and tuning you up on Russian collusion and Trump for 2 years.
All right.
Now, when they speak, just think about it. That's all I'm saying. That doesn't mean they're wrong, but these are the exact same people. So just give it some thought when they have thoughts about
their credit score,
what's going on now. And you can look into it, and it's not what we think it is. But I will say this. Somebody tweeted me, do we have more of the Leonard Nimoy thing? I think it's like 45 seconds or something like that. Remember, when I was 14 years old, I would turn on my TV set, and we didn't discuss 100-degree water in Florida or ice caps melting or the 14th straight day of over 115 degrees in Phoenix.
Yeah,
we didn't have this
warming.
discussion. No. When I was 14 in 1978, we had this discussion.
I think we have to think about moving someplace else.
Move where? The brutal buffalo winter might become common all over the United States. Climate experts believe the next ice age is on its way.
Climate experts.
According to recent evidence, it could come sooner than anyone had expected. At weather stations in the far north, temperatures have been dropping for 30 years. Seacoasts long free of summer ice are now blocked year-round. According to some climatologists, within a lifetime, we might be living in the next ice age.
Uh-oh.
Seems like the opposite of
so which is it?
Global warming. It's whatever they need it to be whenever they need it. That's what it was. And by the way, this is 1978. We put a man on the moon. We have the microwave oven. These aren't superstitious natives. These are climatologists and global climate experts. These are experts in this.
With a bunch of B-roll from Antarctica. Well, did you notice? Because like every time I see all this global warming stuff, I think to myself, and I don't know if it's just me or not, but yeah, it's getting a lot hotter. I feel like it is getting hotter. But back then, did you think it was getting colder? Did it influence your?
I grew up in the motherfucking San Fernando Valley in a shit box with no air conditioning.
Yeah.
And I would just lay there on my uninsulated porch on a cot mattress, just sweating through it, just waiting to die. And I was like, Leonard Nimoy, wherever this cold front is, bring it the fuck on, because I am languishing in this sweat box. And then I would go out and do Pop Warner football, and then I would go do 2-a-days in high school, and then next thing I know, I was working construction up on a roof, working in Chatsworth. I was like, wherever this fucking ice age is, please go find some of it and pipe it the fuck into my life.
Yeah.
Because I was sweltering the entire time. Yes. Now, the problem is we are superstitious natives. We're starting to get into chick think globally. And chick think globally, it's like whenever you talk to Dr. Drew, and, you know, Dr. Drew's talking to one of his lady friends about why you have to go into the sauna so you can sweat out the toxins. You know, sweat the toxins on. It's like your sweat glands don't sweat out toxins. It doesn't work that way. And what are toxins? Good luck talking a chick out of the concept of sweating out toxins when they're sitting in a sauna. They think it, they know it, they live it, they love it. Now, it doesn't matter if you're talking to a physician who's explaining to you that doesn't exist and it's not possible. They're done with that conversation. So when you deal with chick think, and this will work for most chicks and then a lot of dudes, sadly, especially in places like LA, and it's hot more than 4 days in a row, they go, aha, something's afoot. Global warming. They can't wrap their mind around the concept of it just being hot and it having nothing to do with anything, because they're non-religious people, but they're super suspicious. They're superstitious gypsy people is basically what it is. None of them are religious, but they all focus on the religion of global warming, and then they have to ascribe it to everything all the time. So they got to go, aha, aha, aha. So this is what happens. Now, what they don't understand is everything's cyclical. I heard some study that like the hottest days in this country were in the 1930s, like 1930 in terms of measured record set hottest year, like 1930, in which case I felt horrible for all those people because air conditioning wasn't invented yet. But no, all the shit you're hearing now is mostly bullshit. But it's no different than Leonard Nimoy talking about the Ice Age in 1978. We were in. My mom was into this shit because she'd be a person who would buy into the bullshit because she had the crazy gypsy chick thing.
Right.
So understand that this is just understand this. It's what's being peddled to you. Now, it's being peddled for control. They want to set the mileage of your car and how much gas you can use, and all. They want to set it all. Look no further than COVID. All about control. We're going to scare you, then we're going to control you. They need the useful idiots around them to help them. And I'm not saying global warming doesn't exist. We cannot control it from our very relatively small country. We have to get India and China and Africa on board. They're developing nations. They're not going to get on board. So whatever we do, we're not going to control it. So we need to get everyone under control. But I do think technology finds a way to solve these problems, like Bjorn Lomborg and guys like that. That's what they say. If you stood in 1978 with Leonard Nimoy in a parking structure behind a 1972 Oldsmobile and that thing was running, your eyes would be watering and you'd be coughing because what was coming out of the exhaust pipe was just pure poison. Yeah. Now, fire up the Honda, stand in the parking lot, fire up 5 Hondas, stand in the underground parking structure, have a conversation, eat a sandwich.
Have a cigar.
Okay, that was solved by technology.
Yeah.
We're going to find that that's the way it's going to work with this as well. All right, keep going.
All right, so let's see here. The Aaron Hernandez's brother.
I like the cut of this kid's jib.
He's out of control.
Is he the one who threw a rock at ESPN?
Yeah.
I like this kid.
Well, he's now been arrested again. This time, cops are saying there's concern he's planning school shootings at UConn and Brown University.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Oh.
So these allegations are spelled out in the new Bristol Police Department documents obtained by TMZ Sports, where cops say DJ showed signs of this month being, quote, gravely disabled and a danger to society.
You got to wonder about the Hernandez brothers.
What is
like, it's
going
just a
on?
mutant gene, or is it just a horrible upbringing, or...
And can it be studied and prevented?
And where's mom and dad in this equation?
That might be what happens with the study.
All right. I think Ben McKenzie
is
ready for us. I don't know what I do with his bio here. Here it is. All right. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back with Ben McKenzie right after this. First, there's the Jordan Harbinger Show. The Jordan Harbinger Show, a different kind of sponsor for this episode, the Jordan Harbinger Show. Well, if you're a fan of fascinating podcasts and interesting people, you should definitely check this one out. There's an episode for everyone, no matter what you're into. Jordan talks with Scott Adams about persuasion in a world where facts don't matter anymore. Man, is he right. Or you go inside the dark world of wildlife trafficking. You'll always find something useful to apply to your own life, like routine changes to boost productivity or slight mindset tweaks to change how you see the world. Jordan's a good guy. We've had him on many times. I know the man well, and he's worth a listen. We enjoy the show, and we know you will too. So you can search The Jordan Harbinger Show. That is HARB as in boy, IN as in Nancy, GER on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Morgan & Morgan. Let me lay a stat on you. People 15 to 24 have the highest rate of ER visits due to car accidents. And I got kids, and they're about that age, so it seems, well, they're right in that age group. It's kind of scary. So if you've ever been injured, check out Morgan & Morgan. Submitting a claim with Morgan & Morgan is easy. You can use it the same way you use like a rideshare app. It is that easy, and even easier than swiping right on a dating app, which, by the way, leads to more trouble, or this could lead to more money. America's largest injury law firm, 100-plus offices nationwide, over 800 lawyers, more than $15 billion recovered for clients. So if you're injured in an accident, check out Morgan & Morgan. Their fee is free unless they win, so it's no risk. Morgan & Morgan, right, Dawson?
For more information, go to forthepeople.com/Adam or dial #law, #529 from your cell phone. That's forthepeople.com/Adam or #law, #529 from your cell. This is a paid advertisement.
Ben McKenzie has joined us. Ben, well, he's an author. He's obviously an actor as well.
I'm a big fan of his acting career, yeah.
Gotham, Southland, The OC, and many, many other projects. But not here to talk about acting today. Here to talk about cryptocurrency. He has a book out, Easy Money, Cryptocurrency, Casino Capitalism, and the Golden Age of Fraud. And he's an expert on this, and I'm not. So we're going to learn a lot. Good to see you, Ben.
Good to see you, Adam. How are you?
I'm well. I know nothing of this subject. I think we all have a feeling, which is, I went to Jimmy Kimmel's daughter's wedding in Nashville about a year and a half ago, and there was a passenger on the plane, and I said something like, "What's your brother up to?" or something, and they said, "He used to be a doctor, but he went full cryptocurrency or whatever, and now he just retired." And I snapped my pencil in half. I was like, "God damn it, why didn't I think of that?" And I got really jealous. But then I hear about a lot of the horror stories as well, and I go, "Thank God I didn't get involved with that." Right. Where are we at with this, and what is it?
Oh, where we're at is that most people, good on the guy, on the, ex-doctor who won, but most people have lost money in the crypto casino. 40 to 50 million Americans bought it. Most of them went in 2021, according to polling. So they came in at or near the height of the bubble. And so, unfortunately, as all these companies have gone bankrupt and Sam Bankman-Fried of FTX is being charged with fraud, I mean, the whole thing's kind of fallen apart. So, yeah, that's where we're at. That's actually how I started down this rabbit hole. Was a buddy of mine came to me and said I should buy Bitcoin. And I love him to death. Been my friend since college, but he gave me terrible financial advice when I was in my 20s and told me to invest in this company I never heard of and put a little money into its stock. And we did, and we lost the money. And so when he came back, I was like, what is this cryptocurrency stuff? I have a degree in economics. So that kind of started me down the road,
And what was it at its height, and where is it now?
I mean, at its height, it was 3 trillion, supposedly. You have to understand that most of the money in crypto isn't real, in the sense that it isn't backed by real dollars or euros or whatever that have flowed into the quote unquote ecosystem. It's and you don't have to take my word for it. I interviewed this guy, Alex Mashinsky, last year. This is in the book, and he told me 10 to 15% of the money in crypto is real. The rest is speculation. That guy was arrested last week or the week before and charged with fraud. So, yeah, it's basically, you create a coin, you say it's worth something, you trade it on an unregulated market, more or less unregulated. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? It's all kinds of shenanigans going on.
But why are our smartest and most successful people getting into this then? For instance, Elon.
Tom Brady.
All these really influential. Well, Tom Brady got burned, but why is this attracting some of our biggest thinkers?
I'm going to push back a little on biggest thinkers.
Okay.
Elon Musk is not a genius. He bought Twitter. It was valued at $44 billion when he bought it, and I believe they've had to market to 17 privately. Some companies have had. So, I mean, the guy's lost $20 billion, and good for him. Sorry, it's called X now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, look, some smart people got in early and made money through things like venture capital funds in California, but economically speaking, crypto is a zero-sum game, meaning it's like poker. It's not doing anything, right? It's not doing anything productive. So if the three of us sat around a table in Vegas, you could win a hand, Adam might win a hand, I might win a hand, but we're just changing money back and forth between us. And by the way, as we're playing, the house is taking the rake. The difference is this is not a clean game. There's all sorts of shenanigans going on. I go into detail in the book, but yeah, it works for some people.
Yeah, we're just exchanging money. There's a rake being taken, but it's just going in a circle anyway. It's not really.
Yeah, there's no economically speaking, there's no real first of all, they're not currencies because you can't buy stuff with them. So let's just stop using the word currency. Come on, just be honest. You can't go. I tried this actually. I live in Brooklyn now. I went to my neighborhood deli and I was like, can I buy a bagel in Bitcoin? And they looked at me like I was crazy because. Of course, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So they're not being used like that, right? People are buying them on apps on their phone, or were buying them on apps on their phone. They put real money in. They hope to make real money off of it. They hope the price of the crypto goes up. They could sell it. Then they made the money. Come on, that's an investment. What are we talking about? But they hadn't been classified clearly under law. It was this whole flaws in our legal system and our regulatory system. So, yeah, I mean, to me, it's basically, look, I said in front of the Senate, I think it's effectively the biggest Ponzi scheme in history. I mean, I know people go, but read the book. I lay out the argument. I think it's pretty straightforward. Yeah,
and I like your how you relate to online poker and that cryptocurrency is actually like a casino,
right?
In that sense.
Yeah.
But you interviewed Sam Bankman-Fried, the ex-CEO of FTX. How did that interview go?
I mean, for me, it went great. We reached out. I interviewed him in July of last year, so he hadn't his empire hadn't fallen apart. That would come in November, December.
So this is the height of his powers.
Kind of. I mean, crypto was starting to crash already. This thing called a stable coin, which it'll shock you to find out was not actually stable, fell apart, and people tried to cash out into real money, only to find it wasn't there. And so, shenanigans were afoot, as always with crypto. So Sam was at the time, he was gonna bail out the industry. He was gonna like save it. He was like spending all this time on Capitol Hill, time and money, with politicians of both parties and regulators trying to like basically get soft touch legislation. And he was going to clean up crypto, right? That was the ads on FTX, a safer way to invest. And making friends, obviously, organically with people like Tom Brady, who I'm sure they just had a lot to talk about. Nothing to do with.
Bankman started free safety for Purdue, I believe, in the early 2000s. I mean, I would say strong safety. I think I said free safety, strong safety. He didn't have the speed that you want, like in a corner. I think they moved him. I think in high school, he played a sort of Z-back flanker type position. When he got to Purdue, he didn't have the wheels, legs, but he was a hitter. So he was kind of an enforcer back there, and that's why he played. Well, he led with the Crown a lot, got fined pretty heavily, and I never made his show. I think he had a cup of coffee with the Steelers, but I don't think he made the roster.
As far as it got.
That's all I know about Bankman.
Best rebuttal ever. Yeah, I mean, look, the kid's he was 30 years old at the time. He was a supposed genius from California. His parents are professors of law at Stanford. He went to MIT, so he is, he's definitely bright when it comes to mathematics and stuff like that. Way smarter than me. But he was the head of the industry, except there are all these red flags I go into in the book as to like why his whole thing didn't make sense. It just didn't really add up. And so I asked him a bunch of questions, and I have it all on camera. What was fascinating, he's agreed to be interviewed with no preconditions on camera, signed the release. It was like, all right, man, if you want to chat, we'll chat. So
would you ever release that video?
Yeah, I'm making a doc.
So. Oh, great.
Is he is he on the spectrum of something? Because I have seen him interviewed before as well, and my thoughts are always like, God, why would you say this? And why would you agree to this? And surely your attorneys have said, do not, sit down with this person, and if you do, don't say any of this stuff. And he just doesn't seem to feel the jeopardy. And also he was weirdly, I don't know, there was like, after all the shit went down, New York Times had some sort of tastemaker symposium or something, and he was on the panel. And he was just like sitting up there like he'd invented Spanx, and fielding questions. And it was like, what are you doing up here? And blah, 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 New York Times, what are you doing with this guy? Like, we got really blurry about him. I don't know what that was.
That's such a great point. Oh, my God. At one point, Bernie Madoff's lawyer actually gave an interview to some public, and he was like, he should really not be talking right now. When Madoff's attorney tells you to stop, you should probably listen. I mean, I don't know. As to Sam's diagnosis, I believe he's out with he has ADD. I don't know what else, is going on, but he really, I'll put it this way. I go into in the book, but, and I'm not accusing him of anything. Like the DOJ has arrested him and charged him with fraud. So I'll have to let the legal process play out. Auditors who are like examiners of companies' books, right, and are trained in how to detect fraud, they look at three things: need, opportunity, and rationalization. I think you're seeing the rationalization part, on display here.
Shifting gears a little bit because of your background, what are some good investments? Like, whenever you talk to anyone, they go, real estate's good. You can't go wrong with real estate. You get an apartment building, whatever. Always makes sense to me. Although Dr. Drew has only lost money in real estate his entire life. And he'll be the first to tell you what's up. Like in Southern California, how do you do that? The house I grew up in the San Fernando Valley was bought for $12,000 in 1951. When my mom sold it, she sold for $680,000, and it was bulldozed just so they could use the lot.
Yeah.
So how is it that you figure out a way to lose money in Southern California? It is nuts. The first house I bought in the Hollywood Hills, 1996, $350,000. It's 2.7 now. I wish I still owned it, but how is it that you can lose money when this is basically how it works? So I would say real estate feels always about right. It's always there. It's kind of tangible. It can't be digitally erased and zeroed out, your account zeroed out. But I'm not really smart enough or savvy enough to venture into other endeavors. But what are some good endeavors, or what do you do personally? What do you like?
I can't offer financial advice. I'm criticizing other celebrities for doing that.
But you watch the market. Do you trade at all?
Oh, yeah. No, this started with me looking at the market because it was in 2021, as an actor, like, what was I supposed to do? I mean, there was nothing to do. So I was stuck at home. I have young kids, so I was trying to escape them. I love them, but, also. And so I got a little office and I saw these knuckleheads getting rich on crypto. And I was like, oh, I should take a look. I have a degree in economics. I should look at the stock market. And it was just mania. This is meme stocks and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, well, then it's probably a bubble, right? I mean, it seems insane. So that'll probably go down. The book's called Easy Money, not just because of the fake money called crypto, but also because of these easy money policy. The interest rates have been low up until last year, which basically, you can basically get a lot of money either directly or in the form of credit with a loan. And you can, gamble with that money, right? I mean, you could speculate in all kinds of ways, and that's what people do. So I figured it was going to go down and bet a little money and actually, I go into the book, so you have to read it. But
do you see crypto just dissolving completely then at this rate?
I mean, it's basically crypto is just a story. It doesn't really make sense as it doesn't do anything. So it's a weird investment. Like, what are you investing in? And it's not a currency. So it's really just a story. And I know you go, oh, story, like how abstract, but actually that's incredibly powerful. Like in a way, I mean, look, we made money up. Money is a story, right? I mean, money is this thing that we've created. Now, why does the real money work? Well, because it's backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. You can be mad at that government or whatever, but like when I give you a piece of paper with green markings on it, you know that you can take that and use it. Yeah. So money is trust. And these guys are saying they can replace that with computer code. But you can't, because people write the code. The code doesn't fall from the sky. So, it's just kind of based on faulty understanding of money, really, at the end of the day, and what it is. So it won't ever go to zero unless everyone stops believing it or it's outlawed.
Right.
Neither of which is going to happen anytime soon. So it'll be around for a while, but there's a lot of law enforcement stuff happening. So I think, stay tuned on that.
Yeah, you relate crypto to Emperor's New Clothes a lot. You use that same kind of analogy. But talking about the story of crypto or the narrative, can you tell our audience about like why it was so attractive for generational wealth and young men?
Yeah, crypto does this thing where it says, you hate this or that about our current system, and everyone goes, yeah, and they go, crypto solves it, and that's where I went, wait, what? They point to real problems in our society and the system we've created, where it's like, there's massive inequality. People don't have access to banking. People can't send money overseas as easily as they ought to be able to. And the fees are too high. So like there's real problems, but the trick is that crypto says we solve it. That's the 3-card Monty move. That's the move where, they kind of get you. But if there's anything good that crypto does, I would say kind of the only thing it does is point out that we really do, we should probably address some of these other issues. And I have a lot of, I have my own ideas as to how to do that, but that gets more political. But at the end of the day, all of this stuff is made up by human beings, so it's all fallible. The thing with crypto is it's not regulated. So we created those rules in order to keep people from getting defrauded. And unfortunately, when you get outside those rules, what happens is a lot of people get defrauded.
I think it also plays to people's vulnerabilities, and I don't mean in a good way. And what I'm saying is, I don't mean vulnerable like walks with a limp, but everyone has the easy, quick money gene. You know what I mean? Like everybody, you go.
It's just a get rich quick scheme. I mean, they've been around.
Yeah, you will, if you want to create Vegemite soft tacos, you're not going to capture the imagination of America. You're going to sell it to less than 2% of people, and those are ex-Australian patriots or something. But if you go make money quick and easy, you capture every American and every human being, just immediately, like just pow. So you go, hey, would you like to pick up the shovel and go do an honest day's work on the construction site, or would you like to make money from your home like that? Everyone's in. Yeah. You have everyone's attention. So, and I think Ponzi schemes are sort of that way in general, which is we all have this built-in, I mean, maybe it's a narcissism, or maybe it's a narcissism mixed with some sort of greed or capitalism or something. But when somebody goes, I got a way to make you money fast, you go, I'm all ears. And that gets everyone into the tent for sure with something like crypto or whatever the next thing is.
Yeah, and
around.
you know, it's interesting that you started off, Adam. I believe you started off like, you know, it's so complicated. Most, you know, 80% of the country didn't buy crypto, 20% did. And no, you know, it's all good. I wrote the book with them in mind. Like, if they want to know how they probably lost money, like, here's one way you might understand it. But for the 80% of us that didn't, they almost always say what you said, which is basically like, it seems complicated but sketchy. And I'm like, no, that you got it. It's not that complicated, actually. Like, there's a lot of like terminology that's kind of honestly baloney. You know, sorry, can I curse on this podcast?
Yeah, please.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's total bullshit. Like, they say things like, well, obviously currencies aren't currencies, stable coins aren't stable, decentralized means centralized. I mean, it just gets you're Alice in Wonderland at this point. You're through the looking glass. So it's a way of people going, you know, they need to understand more. They have to do more research, DYOR, do your own research. And if they lose money, it's their fault. It gets weird at its deepest level. It can get kind of culty. But most people just bought it because they thought they were going to make money, and totally get that. I almost did it, but
I think
just because you think something's true doesn't mean it is true. You know,
I think people have an overwhelming desire to not be left behind.
Yeah.
We always have this, oh man, I got left behind on X, Y, and Z.
Beanie Babies.
And, you know, I would invest in either real estate or vintage cars, you know. And I never really think about the cars that I bought and made a bunch of money on. I always think about the ones I bought and sold, and now 4 years later I go to the auction site and it's worth twice as much, you know, and I go, God damn it. What was I should have hung on, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like that. I guess that's how people are wired in general. We don't, I mean, you know, it's interesting. Maybe it's connected to this, but when I talk to any athlete about their career, they remembered in great and vivid detail about the time they fucked up and sort of lost the game, you know, and I go, oh, but you've won the Super Bowl 3 times. And they go, yeah. But in high school, I missed the block. The quarterback was sacked and we lost the national. It could have, like, they really drill down on the woulda, coulda, shouldas. You know, and maybe some of that is healthy and designed by nature so we don't make the same mistake again. But there is this strong feeling of like getting left behind that, again, plays into our sort of foibles and probably sucked. Like when I was on that airplane with that ex-doctor who retired at 41 because he bought Bitcoin, I was like, God damn it, you idiot with your stupid cars.
Yeah, there's actually, I mean, if you want to get all fancy pants about it, there's actually there's this guy, Robert Schiller, who won a Nobel Prize in economics, and he talks about naturally occurring Ponzi's. So a naturally occurring Ponzi is basically the price of something goes up, like usually a speculative thing like crypto. And people see that price going up and they go, oh, shit, like I should buy that because it's going up and I see other people getting rich off of it. So they buy it, which of course raises the price further, which of course brings more people in. So like these things can go on and they just sort of take on a life of their own. And that happens all the time. And, you know, whatever. I mean, in this case, it was outside of our legal system. It was, and I guessed it was based on fraud, or at least there was a lot of fraud in it. I happen to, I believe, be right. At this point, it had been proved right. But like, these things they become, I mean, to your point, Adam, it's like, it's psychological and it's based on simple stuff like greed and FOMO. It's not that complicated.
Yeah. It is interesting how you can capture everybody. But I think people need to be savvy enough. Like, here's what everyone needs to have built into them.
Okay.
There's a commercial and it's running. It's a recent commercial, and it's about some app to have your home cleaned. And it shows these good-looking, people with their shirts tucked in, and they're cleaning the oven, and they're dusting the drapes or whatever, and they'll go, have your whole house cleaned for $19.95. And I go, wait a minute. I pay this chick $200 and she does a shitty job. And look at all these well-dressed people for under $20, under 20. And then I go, whoa, hold on. That's impossible. It's impossible.
Too good to be true.
You can't run a business where you take people in 2023, clean your home. There's some rub. There used to be a version of it when I was a kid. They'd go, we'll clean every carpet in your house for $14, including the entry. It's like, that is impossible to drive a van to someone's house and clean every carpet in their house, including the entry hall and the master bathroom, for $14. You have to stop. When Subway has their all lobster sandwich for $3 that's a foot longer, you have to go, this can't work. It can't work. And you need to have a healthy dose of, wait a minute. Even though it sounds good, we'd all like to have our homes completely clean for under $20. That's impossible.
Yeah, spot the red flag.
How do they make a profit with it? How does this work? How could this possibly work? A little of that built in helps.
Yeah, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. It's real simple. It's what our parents taught us.
Yeah, and would you say another red flag is because I'll bring up the online gambling thing again versus all these cryptos and how they're all based overseas now? Is that should we? Yeah,
that has direct similarities to online poker, which at least Adam, you probably remember. I don't know.
I used to do it.
Oh, you did? Okay, sorry.
Yeah. He's Asian.
Yeah,
cultural mandate.
How old are you,
online pie gal. I'm 37.
How old are you?
37.
Oh, okay, all right. You're still a young buck. But yeah, you were I guess probably a teenager or something. Anyway, in the mid 2000s, obviously, online poker. I was in my 20s. Online poker took off, and I had a bunch of buddies. Actually, the same buddy that wanted me to buy Bitcoin was, of course, into online poker.
That guy.
Yeah. No, I love him to death, Dave. I'm so sorry to do this to you publicly. So basically, law enforcement was bearing down on them in 2006 because they were doing all kinds of stuff. President Bush signed a law that was basically, if you're going to run a casino, you need to follow casino rules. You need to follow all the money transmitter rules and all this stuff. So in response, the online poker companies moved to the Caribbean, which is exactly where Sam Bankman-Fried's FTX was headquartered, which is exactly where Binance, the biggest crypto exchange, is run out of. Well, actually, Binance is the biggest crypto exchange, and they say they don't have a headquarters, which is interesting.
A patent troll or something, yeah.
How can you even get away with that? Yeah, it's pretty not shady at all. Anyway, yeah, myriad ties to online gambling.
What?
Eventually, the feds had to shut it down. In 2011, on Black Friday, they shut down those websites, and a lot of people were committing fraud.
What else has captured your imagination or interest since you've had a little bit of downtime? Other books, other ideas, weird hobbies, sourdough bread baking, whatever.
Marijuana, I would say. I'm probably I got my medical marijuana card, and that's been helpful with anxiety and things like that. So yeah, pot.
Yeah, you decided to write this book after getting really high, right?
Yeah.
Please help me with this concept. I'm not a pot guy per se, but I
didn't grow up that way.
I'm not uptight. I'm into it.
I like booze too.
Oh, good. When I was when
it was that I was drinking too much. I mean, I like it, but there is a limit, and I was beyond that.
As I said famously when I was being interviewed to be a Catholic Big Brother in 1992, the woman said, "Are you into pot? Are you into drugs?" And I said, "I'm not into pot, but if I'm at a party and there's a joint going around, count me in." And that's always kind of been my approach with pot. But I've been to a few dispensaries, and they get real specific about, would you like to write a book on Bitcoin? Would you like to play the oboe? Would you like to be creative? Would you like to go to sleep? Would you like to make better love? And I'm like, I like something that helped me go to bed. Yeah, we got this. And then I got one over here, which will help you be more creative after you get up. And I go, okay, that's good. But all I feel is high. And whatever the one that's supposed to get me to go to bed never really gets me to go to bed. I always stay up for another hour and a half, and all I do is eat. So
Same with me. Same with me. Like the sativa indica bullshit. Like for me, it doesn't matter. It's like, just give me the thing, the edible, make sure I know the milligram dosage, and you try stuff out and you see what works. But yeah, to me, it's a little bit like wine, where they go like, oh, all these gradients of all these things, and can you taste the subtle notes of? I'm like, does it have alcohol in it?
Yes.
Is it drinkable? Like, stop. Just hand me the glass. Thank you.
Yeah.
How much is it?
Yes, I completely agree. And I kind of wonder, because I think people who like drinking alcohol build a story around the alcohol so we can avoid their alcoholism. Because if it was noon and you were just drinking wine out of a bottle, people go, what are you doing? You go, I don't care, I'm trying to get buzzed. Then you're an alcoholic. But if you dump it into a glass and you swirl it around and you go, oh, it's assertive without being pushy. There's
it's a delivery system.
Notes of cumin in here, and then you drink it. Then you're fucking connoisseur.
Yeah,
totally.
And maybe they're doing that. Maybe they're doing that with pot. Maybe they're doing that with pot. They don't go, this shit will get you real high. They go, you want to play the oboe? You want to speak Mandarin?
Exactly. I mean, it's all marketing. Everything's marketing, right? I mean, there's a fundamental, crypto's literally just marketing, but like with real products like alcohol, it's like, there's alcohol. It's pretty straightforward. And then the rest is the story we're telling you, right? I mean, there are differences to some degree in quality, right? I mean, the $2 vodka you buy at the liquor store is not as good as the $20 bottle, but like, I don't know that there's a huge difference between what is it? Maybe $20 bottle.
Once you get over 20, you can go all the way to Dan Aykroyd's skull, and you won't taste the difference.
All right. So before we get out, would you just suggest to our listeners, any listeners invested in crypto, to just get out now and cut your losses?
I can't give you financial advice. I would say buy the book, and if you still want to hold crypto after that, good on you.
Fair.
I'm not going to tell you what to do.
I think you will if you read the book. Easy Money is the name of the book. Wherever you find books, it is out as we speak. Ben McKenzie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Adam. Great to see you as always. Thanks,
always
guys.
Great to see you. All right. Shifting gears, we have Dr. Greg Hammer, who's also written a book and has many thoughts about happiness and health and well-being.
And some stuff about, we should talk about Bronny, too.
Oh, yeah, and some Bronny James, because he's an expert. And we'll do that right after this. Let me tell you about O'Reilly Auto Parts. Wow. You want to save some money? You want to save some gas? Here's a few things you can do to improve your fuel mileage. Check your tire pressure, people. If the tire pressure is low in one or more tires, you're going to use a lot more gas. Check out your owner's manual or inspect the tire yourself to find the recommended pressure. O'Reilly Auto Parts carries a wide range of tire gauges to make it easy to check your tires on a regular basis. It's also a lot safer when they're properly inflated. Always keep your fuel system clean. A fuel injector or carburetor cleaner is a simple, affordable way to remove carbon deposits and moisture from the fuel system and can improve the performance and efficiency of your engine. How about changing a clogged air filter? As an air filter clogs with dirt and debris, airflow becomes restricted and causes your vehicle's fuel management system to use more gas. Changing clogged filters increases the amount of air available to your engine, which boosts your fuel economy. For all the money-saving gas tips you need this summer, ask the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts or go to O'ReillyAuto.com. Back with Dr. Greg Hammer, who has a book out called Gain Without Pain, the Happiness Handbook for Healthcare Professionals. Wherever you find finer books. Good to see you, Dr. Greg Hammer.
Great to be with you, Adam.
So I feel two ways about this sort of health and wellness and being mindful. We're chasing it hard. It was never brought up. It was never discussed when I was a kid. But now we're going after it hard. But on the other hand, which I like, but on the other hand, a lot of the people that are chasing it hard are some of the most miserable people I know. So I'm like wondering if there's a compensation aspect to it. And then maybe instead of talking about it, we should all just be out chopping wood and building a fort with our kids. And you know what I mean? Like these weird Amishy, grassrootsy kind of activities where nobody talked about it, but everyone kind of lived the life that created mental wellness. Thoughts?
Well, I'm totally down with that. I agree with you completely. There can be too much talk about a lot of things and not enough doing. That sounds like an ad campaign, actually. But
yeah,
no, I completely agree with you. I'm not sure that I would hasten back to a prior time when we were out chopping wood and presume that we were happier during those times. But I agree with you that at some point you just have to actually walk the walk and live that which is being discussed rather than talk about it.
Well, yeah, I don't think we were happier. And the reason I know this is because I've worked in the blue collar world for a long time, and I've always been around blue collar people. And what I notice about them is they are not happier as we know it, but they're not dissatisfied. They're sort of in the middle. Life isn't really about being happy is kind of a luxury. They're just sort of busy and kind of engaged and sort of in the middle somewhere. Whereas I kind of seems like the people I know that are more white collar, that have more affluence and so on and so forth, have these wild swings between very happy and very upset versus a kind of a steady she goes down the middle approach that used to be much more prevalent in this country. And it still is amongst certain groups, the people have to sort of get up and go to work every day.
Yeah, that actually resonates with me. I do think there's a well-known phenomenon whereby the people who have money are predisposed to worrying about having money and maybe having more money. And so life is not about material wealth. I mean, it's something called, you can say that there's two kinds of happiness. There's hedonic happiness and eudaimonic happiness. Hedonic happiness comes from temporary things like objects and brief experiences. I'm happy that my child graduated from high school, but that's not going to last. I'm happy that I got a new car. That's certainly not going to last. And the other kind of happiness is eudaimonic happiness, which really comes from service. But the hedonic happiness, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, we should be pleased with all of our material wealth. We just shouldn't be obsessed about it. And I think a lot of, when you say white collar, I think there's an inference that you're talking about people who have material wealth. And, we do in our society get quite caught up with that and feel as though more wealth is going to bring us greater happiness, which there's a lot of happiness science, if you will, that shows that's not true as long as you're above the poverty line. So, yes, it could be that the, blue collar people to whom you referred know they're never going to have a ton of money, and they're not orienting their life toward having a lot of money. And that in some ways may be a good thing.
Yeah, well, I go further with my sort of analyses of blue collar versus white collar, transcending wealth, but more into on your feet, putting wood together, putting metal together, kind of sense of purpose that we're losing in the digital air-conditioned cubicle of life. And I have found that as I travel and I really look at it, that the people that are on their feet, breaking a sweat and have, raising a barn metaphorically or really, have a much more centered life, like just seem to be in a better headspace in general. What is your take talking about pediatric heart specialists? Very recently, Bronny James collapsed. There's been some of this has been happening. On the other hand, you can't tell if it's happening at a higher rate or it's always been happening and you didn't really hear about it or how it works. But is something going on? Is there a phenomenon? Is this all just sort of coincidental? And is it a thing that's always happened and it didn't make the news, or is there a phenomenon that's afoot?
No, I don't think the incidence is increasing. I work in a heart center where we have a very busy cardiac electrophysiology group. So we see a lot of children, adolescents, and young adults who have cardiac electrical issues. And those are the people that can collapse on the field or playground or at work because of cardiac electrical stuff that happens that predisposes them to cardiac arrest. Mm-hmm. And then we also have a big heart failure program. So we see a lot of people with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which also leads to sudden death or cardiac arrest. So I think there's just a background incidence of these things. They're not common. And I think there's just been a couple of, celebrities or other notable things like, when a guy collapses on the football field. I mean, that was quite a moving experience, I think. The fact that everybody rallied around, they stopped the game. That was in the news. I think that was great. That was a very rare event where a guy got actually hit in the chest, which, if it happens during a particular time in the cardiac cycle and the force is enough, can cause a malignant cardiac rhythm that can cause cardiac arrest. I think there's always a background of these various things that lead to cardiac arrest in young, healthy people. So I don't see anything going on that's causing an increase.
What do you do if you're Bronny James and you literally your heart stopped and you'd, I assume, be dead if you were in your bedroom and it was the middle of the night, right? And thank God you're in a place with medical services and a defibrillator and all. I mean, if you weren't in that environment, even in the back of an Uber, right? I mean, almost anywhere but that environment, you'd be dead, right? If you were laying on the beach or any lifeguard's not going to bring you back, probably in the window that you have to live, right? I mean,
yes.
Anything,
unless you're near somebody who is proficient at CPR, and ideally there's an automatic electric defibrillator at hand, an AED. Yes, if that happened to you at home, most of these things happen with activity.
Oh, okay.
So at least in a young, healthy person, it's not likely for it to happen in bed and so on. Just so
right.
Listeners
Okay.
don't get totally freaked out.
Right. But
yes, you're right.
What do you do with a guy like that and his entire future ahead of him? Do you just go, well, you're fine, let's get back with it? Or is there a procedure or medication? Or how do we prevent this from happening again?
Well, the rare case of an impact-related cardiac arrest has happened in the football game in the NFL. I don't know, was it last year or the year before?
Yeah.
That's probably not going to happen again. So that guy doesn't have anything else wrong with his heart. He could probably continue to play, and maybe he already is. If you have, there's a couple of different categories of issues that lead to this sudden cardiac arrest in somebody who's apparently perfectly healthy. There's the electric phenomena, in which case somebody is predisposed to having it happen again, especially when there's a lot of adrenaline going around where you're exercising, for example. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of cardiac electrical rhythm disturbances, and if that's discovered, then I'm sure he's not playing basketball again. The other category that's probably among the more common is hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, where the heart muscle is sort of overgrown. And if he has that, he's certainly not going to play basketball again. So it really depends what the diagnosis turns out to be.
But does it look promising that he'll play again? Because you just sort of said it's either A or B, and both would sort of disqualify you from playing again. Again, there's a list of things it could be. If it was impact related, which I don't think it was, at least I haven't heard that he got hit in the chest with a basketball. But otherwise, I would say there's a very good chance he won't play competitive basketball again. But I think we have to wait and see what he actually is diagnosed with. Well, I guess the good news is his dad's LeBron James, so he's not going to be sleeping in a tent under the 405. But Damar Hamlin, I think, was the impact one we're talking about.
Right.
How do you diagnose an impact versus what happened to Bronny James? Like, how can you physically know that that's what happened versus just a cardiac arrest?
It's really a diagnosis of exclusion. So, they play the instant replay in slow motion, and you see, I think he got a helmet in the chest or some such impact. And then they rule out everything else. You have a 12-lead EKG, and you can see most of the electrical abnormalities that are risk factors for sudden death or cardiac arrest. And then, of course, I'll have a cardiac echo, which would highlight things like hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. So it's really a diagnosis of exclusion coupled with the film that demonstrates that he had an impact-related phenomenon. So, yeah, I think that's what happened to him. He was in the hospital to exclude all the other possibilities before they let him go.
Let's get back to happiness,
please,
and healthcare.
Yeah, what do you associate all of the recent increases in depression amongst, I guess, everybody, really?
Yes, well, I have been very focused on burnout in the healthcare area for the last 10 years. And what do we mean by burnout? Burnout is the mental and physical fatigue and other effects like depression that result from chronic stress. So I don't know, I'm in my 7th decade and I've never seen anything like these last several years in terms of stressors. Certainly the pandemic was probably the most universal one, but there's so many other things going on right now. I'm writing a book about using the same gain approach that the first book highlighted on teenagers. And, teenagers and the rest of us, I think, are going through unprecedented times. But for teens, they missed a lot of school, missed all that interpersonal connection they have, sports, proms, all the other things during COVID. And no surprise that there's a huge increase in depression and suicidal ideations and visits to the emergency department among teenage, especially girls, but boys as well. But beside COVID, again, I think there's the sort of eco-anxiety. Is the world going to be habitable for my kids and my grandchildren? Again, should I wear a Kevlar vest to school? Which bathroom should I use? I mean, there's just a host of stressors, and many of these apply to we adults as well. And I think that's why you have depression and anxiety. Depression is really, I talk about the way our brains are wired, and one way, and ways that tend to veil our happiness or appear to interfere with our ability to be happy. And one is we have a negativity bias, right? We tend to focus on the negative, like 20% of our thoughts are positive and 80% are negative. And the other one is we're really obsessed with the past and the future in maladaptive ways. And so when we obsess over the past with our negativity bias, we get a lot of shame and regret, low self-esteem, and depression. And when we fixate on the future and overthink the future with our negativity bias, we think of the worst thing that might happen, we catastrophize, and we get a lot of fear and anxiety. And so I think there's a lot of stressors kind of pushing us in those directions mentally, resulting in a lot of mental illness these days.
I think that we're in a difficult point in history where people are getting a little too much of what they want a little too fast. And there's no delayed gratification, which is kind of the key to everything. And I really see it's upsetting people, though they don't know it. So what we want and what's good for us is about the same as your diet. Everyone wants a cheeseburger. They don't want the kale. And I hope everyone's sitting down. The kale's good for you and the cheeseburger isn't. And you can just go right down the line of every single thing you want is not going to be good for you, and every single thing you don't really want is what you need from a nutrient standpoint. Now, that's kind of life, and it's always been baked into the cake, pardon the pun, because you do want the cake. But we've understood, like, if you wanted your new bicycle, then your parents would go down to Sears and they'd say, well, Christmas is coming up in 4 months, Timmy, and maybe if you're a good boy, Santa will bring it to you. Or, there was just everything you sent for was allow 4 to 6 weeks for delivery. You know what I mean? Like everything was on a slow boat.
Right.
And so you got used to this sort of work real hard and do all these things, and then you will get to be the captain of the football team, or you'll get the most valuable player trophy, or whatever. Everything was delayed gratification. Now, nobody wants that, especially 9-year-olds. They just want their shit right now. But what they don't realize is that leads to misery. It really leads to misery. It's the sort of genie in the bottle thing. You know, he's going to grant me all my wishes. It never works out. But that's where we're at now. And so we're essentially saying to kids, you know, get whatever you want and get it tomorrow or get it today or have it. Any TV show you want to watch, turn it on, stream it, watch 5 seasons in one evening. Like it's all, you know, I would watch TV when I was a kid, and it's like they do the 2-part special on Charlie's Angels in Hawaii, you know, and then it would end and it'd go, tune in next week to see. You got to wait a goddamn week to see what the hell happened.
It's ruined our calibration.
We are calibrated for I want everything right now all the time. But what we really need as human beings is the process. We want to say, I want to shake a magic wand and have a beautiful redwood deck appear in my backyard. But what we need is planning, the trip to the Home Depot, the friends, the neighbor coming over, helping you pull the line level of the string line, laying out the whatever, and then sitting there drinking a glass of lemonade at the end of the day going, tomorrow, you know, I got the beams in and I got the joists in, and tomorrow I'm going to start on the deck. That's what we need. But we all want the magic wand. And society and politicians in Madison Avenue understand what we want. And they go, let's pretend to give them that, or let's give them that. Let's get Jeff Bezos over here and the Grubhub guys and everything. And we'll just have whatever they want right when they want it. And we started getting way too much of what we want when we wanted it, and too often and too early. And then we're all kind of we're now agitated because the deck doesn't mean anything anymore. You go out, you stand out, you go, this is cool, and then you go, I'm gonna go back in the house and look at some porn on the internet. And it creates a dissatisfaction. And what I'm telling everyone to do is you have to slow down and you have to go. And when people go, and I fight it all day, I go out and wash your own car. And they go, you don't have to do that. Why? And their friend always jump in. Take it to the car place. You got better use of your time. You don't need to. By the way, you're just binge watching Netflix shows. What do you mean your time? Go out and do these very simple activities that will bring you satisfaction. And that, yes, it may take longer and it may not make sense to you in your tax bracket to do this yourself. Do it anyway. And we have everyone in society screaming, along with the climate stuff and along with the COVID stuff and along with the racial inequities and stuff, just being bombarded with like who we are and how bad we are and how it's all going to end and all that kind of stuff. And now we have high levels of dissatisfaction and suicidal rates. And it could go no other way. Now, then you now enter big pharma, and if you take this pill, it'll help you lose the weight or it'll help you get your mind straight. It has to go this direction if this is the direction we're going to keep going. And the only way to get back is to go, full Amish. Like just go back you have to start going the other direction, and you have to start washing your own car and go build your own treehouse with your kids and all of that. We're not encouraging that as a society, and I think that's the problem. And I also want to get your take on this, Doctor. There are a few people that are going harder the other direction. Like all the billionaire tech bro guys, they're all rolling jujitsu for 5 hours a day and then sitting in an infrared sauna and then taking a cold plunge. Like they get it. They get it. The rest of us, 24 hours drive through, porn on your phone. And everyone's just getting fatter and angrier.
Yeah.
Well, I think two things that we're not teaching our kids, for example, are patience and hard work. And so I think you're right. It's this point and click mentality. Growing up with a computer, you move the cursor over, you click on something, a whole new image appears, and you kind of get used to everything happening with ease and immediately. And the other thing is, and this applies to medicine to some extent, we're kind of going easier and easier on our trainees, that hard work is, I think, part of what you're actually alluding to. And, I think that people growing up today don't appreciate this 10,000 hour rule, where those guys who were gazillionaires didn't get that way just by luck or pointing and clicking. They, for the most part, put in their 10,000 hours. They worked around the clock for a long time before they got to where they are. But it's just so easy to see this extreme wealth that we have. And given your point and click, kind of everything coming hot and heavy, even all the sound bites that are bombarding us all the time, people expect things to happen with the snap of a finger. And in most cases, that's not the way the world is. And so, yes, I mean, I agree with you. Go wash your own car. It slows you down. It puts you in touch with the work required to get a product. Back to the sort of blue collar thing, guys are working with their hands and they can see the product of that. So I agree with you. I think I'm concerned about, even my kids grew up with computers, and, I'm still the old school guy who kind of does things the hard and slow way in many cases, although I work in a very technical field. But no, I totally agree with you, Adam.
Yeah, sometimes it's as simple as like just using a scratch pad. Just physically picking up a pen and putting your phone in the next room and just sitting with some ideas and scratching them out, and people go, there's an app for that. You can talk in your phone or put it up your head and just think about things and it'll transcribe it. It's like, yeah, but I know, I get it. It's old and it's slow and it's Jeremiah Johnson-esque, but I'm saying take the wash your car in the driveway yourself metaphor and just sort of apply it to other facets of it. Make your own omelet.
Quentin Tarantino handwrites all his scripts, probably for that reason.
Yep, and it's worked for him. Let me plug the book, Dr. Greg Hammer. Gain Without Pain, the Happiness Handbook for Healthcare Professionals, wherever you find our books. And the website, greghammermd.com, is where you go. Thanks for joining us, Doctor.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, guys. Anytime.
Well, we'll have you back, especially if things pop up in the news. All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Greg Hammer. You can go to AdamCarolla.com for all the live shows, Vegas and Appleton, Wisconsin, and Honolulu and Louisville and all that stuff. And so, until next time, Adam Carolla for Ben McKenzie and Dr. Greg Hammer and Chris Maxipata saying mahalo.